This was years ago, back when I was in college. I was living alone, struggling to balance school, work, and social life. But there are things I went through then, things that still haunt me. And no matter how hard I try, I can't forget them. One evening, I was driving home from class. It was late, maybe around 9 p.m. I wasn't feeling particularly unsafe, just tired after a long day. But as I drove through a gloomy streets, I started to feel something strange. I noticed a car behind me. Nothing out of the ordinary at first. But as I turned onto a side street, I noticed it was still there. I made a few more turns, hoping I was just being paranoid, but the car kept following. I had this awful feeling that I wasn't just being followed, I was being watched. I pulled into a convenience store trying to shake off my unease. I grabbed a few things, just random snacks, and went to the counter, trying to act normal. But there it was, that same car, parked just a few spots away, idling. I could see through the window. My stomach dropped. I paid for my stuff, took a deep breath, and told myself it was nothing. Maybe they were just driving the same path. A coincidence. That's all. But when I got back in my car and pulled out of the parking lot, the car followed me. Again. Slowly. Not aggressively, but with this unsettling precision, like they were studying me, tracking me, trying to figure out where I was going. I tried to brush it off, told myself I was just being paranoid, but the feeling wouldn't leave. It clung to me the whole drive home, a creeping sense of dread that only got worse the closer I got to my front door. By the time I reached my apartment complex, my nerves were on edge. Something was definitely wrong. I decided to play it smart. Instead of heading straight to my apartment, I drove all the way around the complex, past my building, just to see if the car would keep following. Sure enough, as I turned the corner by the security office, the car kept going, speeding up a bit before making a hard turn and disappearing. It was like they knew exactly where I was going and decided that was enough. The next few days went by without incident, but the feeling of being watched never really left. It stuck with me like a shadow, creeping into my thoughts at the most random times. I kept thinking about it during the day, but it was during the night that the real terror began. About a month later, a heavy snowstorm blew in and swept through overnight, dumping inches of snow and leaving everything coated in white. My apartment was small, but cozy. It was on the second floor of the building, and I had a huge window that took up most of one wall. I kept the shades drawn all the time, partially because of the way the apartment was laid out, but also because of that constant feeling of being watched. My bed was right in front of the window, and when I lay there at night, I couldn't help but feel like someone was hiding in the dark. That morning, I pulled myself out of bed and went about my usual routine. The apartment was quiet, and the snow outside had created a soft blanket of white that muffled everything. As I stood there, staring at the footsteps, I noticed something else. More footprints. This time, they circled around to the side of the building, to the left of my door. If you walk straight, you'd be at the stairs, but if you turned left, you'd walk right in front of my window. And there, in the snow, were the distinct impressions of someone pacing back and forth in front of my window. I froze. It was like someone had been watching me all night. They had stood there, waiting for me to wake up, watching me through the blinds while I slept. My heart raced. I couldn't believe it. I walked over to the window cautiously, pulling the shade back just a little to get a better look outside. I saw nothing, just the quiet, empty, snow-covered footsteps on the ground. But that didn't make me feel any better. They were gone now, but the fear lingered like a shadow I couldn't escape. How could someone be so close to me, right outside my window, and I never even knew? That feeling of paranoia settled in deep, and I started looking over my shoulder everywhere I went, even inside my apartment. I kept thinking about it all the times, how it had escalated from just a car following me on the road to someone standing outside my apartment at night. It all seemed too connected to be a coincidence. But who was it? And why? Was it the same person who had followed me home that night? Or was it someone else entirely? I felt completely trapped in my home. I couldn't stay there anymore. I packed up my things, found a new place, and moved out not too soon after. I didn't tell anyone about what had happened. I didn't think they'd understand, and honestly, I didn't want anyone to know just how terrified I had been. The fear that someone had been watching me, that someone was so close, yet I never knew.